Good morning, everyone. Today we'll be discussing on the anatomy of nose and paranasal sinuses. As we all know, at the end of 4 weeks of intrauterine life, two epithelial thickenings called nasal placodes appear on the head. Each placode is bounded by a medial nasal prominence medially and a lateral nasal prominence laterally. The placodes deepen by virtue of overgrowth of the mesenchyme of these prominences and form the olfactory pits. As the pits deepen to form the nasal sacs, the maxillary processes grow medially and meet the lateral nasal processes on each side, thus demarcating the primitive nasal cavity. The two medial nasal folds merge and form the frontonasal process. Its upper and the anterior end forms the primitive nasal septum. The free lower surface forms the primitive palate. A bucconasal membrane separates the primitive nasal cavity from the primitive oral cavity, which later ruptures and forms the primitive choana, one on each side of the midline. Later, the secondary palate grows and the choana moves to a more posterior location at the junction of the normal nasal cavity and oropharynx, thus forming the definitive choana. This is the brief embryology of how the nose is developed. So with this brief embryological development of nose, I'd like to proceed with the anatomy of external nose. So external nose, as you all know, forms a it forms one of the enhancing part of the face, which gives a very pleasing or the aesthetic appearance for the face, and one of the prominent structure, hence more prone for trauma. So coming to the anatomy of external nose, it's actually a pyramidal, inverted pyramidal shaped structure formed by bone as well as cartilage. So the osteocartilaginous framework consists of bony part in the upper 1/3 and cartilaginous part in the lower 2/3. Bone which forms the framework, bony framework, are the nasal bones, the nasal processes of frontal bone, and frontal processes of maxilla. Now, why should you know the anatomy is you have to know the difference between the dangerous area of face and the dangerous area of nose. Both are different. So what is the dangerous area of face? It's that part of the nose which forms the lower part of the external nose and the upper lip. It's a triangular area. So why should you know about the dangerous areas? The infections may spread to cavernous sinus through inferior ophthalmic vein via anterior facial veins because they have no valves, and this cavernous sinus inflammation can cause dreaded complication and causes cavernous sinus thrombosis, wherein patient may lose his vision and it can endanger life. So an early infection in the external surface of the nose should be treated as early as possible. Now coming to the dangerous area of nose, that's the olfactory area. And now why is it dangerous? It's because the infection spreads into meninges along the pia and arachnoid sheath of olfactory nerves. This area is also connected to superior sagittal sinus and cavernous sinus by venous channels. Coming to the cartilaginous framework of external nose, consists of upper lateral cartilages, lower lateral cartilages, otherwise called ala cartilages, then lesser cartilages, which are sesamoid cartilages, and then septal cartilage. So clinically, the clinical significance of the cartilaginous framework is it forms an important part of nasal valve and nasal valve is the narrowest area in the upper airway. So nasal valve is formed by lower edge of the upper lateral cartilage, the anterior end of inferior turbinate and adjacent nasal septum. This is the internal nasal valve. And how do you know if there is any obstruction in the nasal valve? By doing a Cortels test, you can exactly know whether there is obstruction in the nasal valve. So how do you do a Cortels test? By simply pressing the cheek and pulling it laterally, if at all the nasal valve opens, there will be proper airflow on that side. If that the patient is able to say that the airway is improved, that means the Cortels test is positive. That means there is obstruction in the nasal valve area. So if you can see, this is the upper bony portion of the external nose. This is the lower portion, which is the cartilaginous portion. So upper 1/3 bony, lower 2/3 cartilaginous. So these are the two nasal bones. That's the frontal process of maxilla. And these are the pair of upper lateral cartilages. These are the pair of lower lateral cartilages. So the lower lateral cartilage is also called ala cartilage. It has a medial and a lateral part. That's the anterior view. This is the lateral view of the same. That's the lateral view. So another important structure that is below the skin and above your bone and cartilaginous portion is the muscle layer. So the muscles forming the nasal musculature is, one is procerus, then you have nasalis, then levator labii, superioris, aliquot nasi, anterior and posterior dilator nares, and depressor septi. The nasal over nasal bones and upper lateral cartilage is thin and freely mobile, while that on ala cartilage is thick and adherent and contains sebaceous glands. The blood supply to external nose is from facial and ophthalmic arteries and veins, which are actually branches from external carotid artery. And lymphatic drainage is to preauricular and submandibular lymph nodes. Coming to the nasal cavity or the internal nose, it's divided into right and left nasal cavity by nasal septum. Each nasal cavity consists of skin-lined portion, which is called the vestibule, which contains sebaceous glands, hair follicles, which are called vibrissae, and then it has mucosa-lined portion, which is the nasal cavity proper. So the nasal cavity proper is bounded by lateral wall, medial wall, roof, and a floor. The floor is formed by the palatine process of maxilla in the anterior 2/4 portion and horizontal portion of palatine bone in the posterior 1/4 portion. The roof is formed anteriorly by nasal bones, posteriorly by body of sphenoid bone, and middle horizontal part by cribriform plate of ethmoid through which olfactory nerves enter the nasal cavity. So coming to the important part of the nasal cavity, which is the nasal septums, the medial wall of the nasal cavity. Your nasal cavity is divided into two halves by the nasal septum. So nasal septum has three parts. Your columella septum, membranous septum, which lies between columella and caudal border of septal cartilage, and septum proper. Septum proper consists of osteocartilaginous framework covered with nasal mucous membrane. So septum proper has a major and a minor component. The major component or the principal constituents, it's mainly formed by perpendicular plate of ethmoid posterior-superiorly, vomer bone infero-posteriorly, and septal cartilage the quadrangular cartilage anteriorly. These are the principal constituents of septum. The minor contributions or these major principal constituents articulate with the following bones to complete the septum. Superiorly, frontal bone, nasal bone, and the rostrum of sphenoid. Inferiorly, you have anterior nasal spine of maxilla, nasal crest of maxilla, and palatine bones. So you can see this is anterior, this is posterior portion, superior and inferior. So this is the postero-superior portion formed by perpendicular plate of ethmoid. Postero-inferiorly, you have vomer, that's the bony part, and this is the cartilaginous part, which is formed by septal cartilage called quadrangular cartilage, and this is the columnar septum. So these are the portions, these are the parts of the nasal septum. So these are the minor components formed by the crest of maxilla, crest of palatine bone, rostrum of sphenoid, that's the rostrum of sphenoid, is the anterior spine of maxilla. A very important area in the nasal septum is Little's area. Where is Little's area situated in the nasal septum and why is it important? Little's area is situated in the anteroinferior part of the nasal septum, just above the vestibule. There are 4 arteries which anastomose to form Kesselbach's plexus. They are anterior ethmoidal, septal branch of superior labial, septal branch of sphenopalatine, and greater palatine arteries. So, septal branch of superior labial, septal branch of sphenopalatine, and greater palatine are branches of external carotid artery, whereas anterior ethmoidal artery is a branch of ophthalmic artery. Ophthalmic artery is a branch of internal carotid artery. All these anastomose and form a Kesselbach's plexus, which is an arterial plex, which is one of the most common site of anterior bleed from the nose. This is the area of Kesselbach's plexus, in the anteroinferior part of the nasal septum, just behind the vestibular region. You can see the superior labial artery anastomosing greater palatine, sphenopalatine septal branch, and anterior ethmoidal. Posterior ethmoidal does not contribute to the formation of Kesselbach's plexus. So the nerve supply to the nasal septum actually is from your maxillary, that is trigeminal nerve, gives off anterior ethmoidal branch, nasopalatine nerve, and anterosuperior alveolar nerve. All are branches of trigeminal nerve, and it also has olfactory area, which is supplied by your olfactory nerves. Now coming to another important part, that is the lateral wall of the nasal cavity. So what are the structures forming the lateral wall of nasal cavity? Again, it's a osteocartilaginous framework, wherein most of the portion is formed by your bony part. It has ridges and furrows with multiple openings of for the paranasal sinuses. That it forms the drainage pathway for the paranasal sinuses, as well as drainage of the secretions from the lacrimal gland, through which the fluid comes out through the nasolacrimal duct and it opens into inferior meatus. So let us go through the anatomy of lateral wall. So what are the bones which form the lateral wall of nasal cavity? You have the ascending process of maxilla, the nasal bone, ethmoid bone, medial part of maxilla, inferior turbinate, perpendicular plate of palatine bone, and medial pterygoid plate. All these form the part of nasal cavity on the lateral wall. All the bones except the inferior turbinate. Okay, inferior turbinate is a separate bone. Keep this in mind. In the lateral wall, inferior turbinate is a separate bone, whereas superior and middle turbinate is a part of ethmoid bone. So there are three bony projections which are called turbinates or concave. They are superior, middle, and inferior. If you can see in the diagram, you can see this is the, you can see. Can you see this? Yes, that's the middle turbinate and that's the inferior turbinate. Okay. Sometimes the fourth turbinate called the concha suprema may be present. That's called the fourth turbinate, which is above the superior turbinate. Okay. This is the inferior, middle, and that's the superior. And above that will be your supreme turbinate. Below and lateral to each turbinate corresponds to the meatus. So the inferior turbinate, lateral to inferior turbinate, you have inferior meatus, wherein your nasolacrimal duct opens in its anterior part. Lateral to middle turbinate is your middle meatus, which is the most important part of your osteomeatal complex, which I'm going to talk in a few minutes. What does it consist of? It consists of bulla ethmoidalis, hiatus semilunaris, and infundibulum. Frontal, maxillary, and anterior ethmoid sinuses open into middle meatus. Superior meatus will drain into posterior ethmoidal. Posterior ethmoidal sinuses drain into superior meatus, whereas your sphenoid sinuses drain into sphenoethmoidal recess. You can see that this is the middle meatus. You can see that's the bulla ethmoidalis. That's the hiatus semilunaris. And you can see that's the uncinate process. That's the uncinate process here. You can see the openings of all the sinuses here. That's the ethmoid sinus opening here. Okay. That's the opening of the posterior ethmoid sinus in the superior meatus. That's the opening of nasolacrimal duct in the inferior meatus. Coming to the blood supply of the lateral wall of the nasal cavity, again, it's mainly from the branches of internal maxillary artery, which is a branch of external carotid artery. So you have sphenopalatine artery branches, posterior ethmoidal artery, anterior ethmoidal artery, facial artery, palatine artery, all the arteries supplying the lateral wall. Nose has a very rich blood supply and it's highly vascular. Coming to the nerve supply, again, it's supplied by your anterior ethmoidal nerve. You have the area of overlap of anterior ethmoid and maxillary nerves. You have infraorbital nerve, and then you have olfactory, and then branches of maxillary and pterygopalatine ganglion, and anterior superior alveolar nerve. The sympathetic supply to the nasal cavity comes from your superior cervical sympathetic ganglion, which is situated around the internal carotid plex. And your parasympathetic comes from sphenopalatine ganglion, okay, through the nasal branches of sphenopalatine ganglion. So the common sensation is from trigeminal nerve, that is through the ophthalmic and maxillary divisions, whereas special sensory, that is smell, is from olfactory nerves. The lymphatic drainage is to the upper deep cervical nodes or to the retropharyngeal nodes. To the anatomy of paranasal sinuses. Paranasal sinuses are nothing but air-filled spaces, the bones of skull. There is direct communication of the nasal cavity through their ostia. There are 4 pairs of paranasal sinuses on each side, divided as anterior group and posterior group. The anterior groups are the maxillary sinus, frontal sinus, and anterior ethmoidal sinuses, whereas posterior group constitutes the posterior ethmoid sinus and sphenoid sinus. Now coming to the development of sinuses, they actually develop from the outpouching of the mucous membrane of the nose. At birth, there is only maxillary and the ethmoid sinus which is present. And at the age of 6 years, your frontal and sphenoid sinuses will develop, and all the sinuses attain their full size by 17 or 18 years. So just a slide showing you the drainage of respective sinuses. Your maxillary sinus will drain into middle meatus through hiatus semilunaris. Frontal sinuses drain into middle meatus via infundibulum, and sphenoid sinuses drain to sphenoethmoidal recess. Whereas ethmoidal sinuses has anterior, middle, and posterior group. The anterior group drains into infundibulum of the middle meatus, middle group into the middle meatus on or above the bulla ethmoidalis, and posterior group drains into superior meatus. Note that maxillary and sphenoidal sinuses are present in rudimentary form at birth. They only enlarge appreciably after 8th year and are fully formed in adolescence. Now, the objectives is to know the anatomical location, their connections and significance. I have already told you the development, and we should know the neurovascular supply and why you should know the anatomy of paranasal sinuses. So you all know that paranasal sinuses are air-containing cavities. Each sinuses are named after the bone it resides in. So the 4 pairs of paranasal sinuses are frontal, maxillary, ethmoidal, and sphenoidal sinus. This is the lateral view. That's the frontal sinus. That's the ethmoidal sinuses, anterior, middle, and posterior. This is the sphenoid sinus within the sphenoid bone, and this is the maxillary sinus within the maxillary bone. Anterior view showing the frontal sinus, ethmoid sinus. This is the maxillary sinus. That's the sphenoid sinus. It's an imaginary thing which they have shown, but you can't see the sphenoid sinus, or you can't palpate the sphenoid sinus from the anterior. So the largest paranasal sinuses is maxillary sinus. It's also called antrum of Highmore. It's pyramidal shaped, the base pointing to the lateral wall of nose, apex pointing laterally in the zygomatic process, and the capacity of sinus is around 15 milliliter. So the relations of maxillary sinuses: anteriorly, it's related to facial surface of maxilla, posteriorly to infratemporal and pterygopalatine fossa, medially to middle and inferior meatus. In the floor, it's related to alveolar and palatine process of maxilla, and roof is formed by the floor of orbit. Coming to the blood supply of maxillary sinus, it's from facial artery, infraorbital artery, and greater palatine artery. Maxillary sinus drains into submandibular nodes, and it's supplied by infraorbital nerve, middle and anterior and posterior superior alveolar nerves. That's the blood supply to the maxillary sinus from the anterior branch of facial greater palatine. So coming to the frontal sinus. Frontal sinus resides in the frontal bone. It's the second largest paranasal sinus. It's asymmetrical and usually paired, sometimes 1, 3, or none. So relations of the frontal sinus: anteriorly, it's related to the skin over the forehead, inferiorly to the orbit and its contents, posteriorly, frontal lobe of the brain and meninges. Coming to the neurovascular supply, supplied by the superior orbital artery, and the anterior ethmoidal artery. Venous return is from the anastomotic veins in the supraorbital notch, connecting the supraorbital and supraophthalmic veins. And again, the lymphatic drainage is to submandibular nodes. Nerve supply is from supraorbital nerve, traversing the floor of the sinus. The ethmoid sinuses reside in the ethmoid bone, and there are three groups of ethmoid sinuses. They are anterior, middle, and posterior. And it varies from 3 to 18. There are multiple ethmoid sinuses, and they are present from birth. So your ethmoid sinus is formed, your roof of ethmoid sinus is formed by your anterior cranial fossa that actually is separated. Anterior cranial fossa is separated from the roof of the ethmoid bone by a part of ethmoid bone which is called the cribriform bone, and laterally the ethmoid sinuses are related to orbit. It's separated by the lamina pepacia, which is the medial wall of the orbit and which is the thinnest portion or the very thin bone compared to the other walls of the orbit. So it can be easily damaged by inflammation or by trauma. So the optic nerve lies close to the posterior ethmoidal cells. So ethmoid sinuses are supplied by sphenopalatine artery, anterior and posterior ethmoidal artery. Again, the lymphatic drainage is to submandibular nodes, retropharyngeal nodes, and the nerve supplies from anterior and posterior ethmoidal nerves and orbital branches of pterygopalatine ganglion. The most important part in the lateral wall of nose is osteomeatal complex. This is very important because this is the site which is the site where the pathophysiology of sinusitis occurs. It's actually the space in the middle meatus. It's a space below and lateral to the middle terminate. It functionally is referred as osteomeatal complex because there are three important major sinuses draining into the osteomeatal complex. Osteomeatal complex is a microarchitectural drainage pathway of major paranasal sinuses, which is bounded by bulla ethmoidalis, uncinate process, and your infundibulum. So the middle meatus is something very important in the pathophysiology of chronic rhinosinusitis. What is bulla ethmoidalis? Bulla ethmoidalis is nothing but one of the largest and the constant anterior ethmoidal cell. It is located within the middle meatus, directly posterior to uncinate process and anterior to basal lamella of middle terminate. Hiatus semilunaris is a crescent-shaped gap between the posterior free margin of uncinate process and the anterior wall of ethmoid bulla. Through this passage, the middle meatus communicates with the ethmoid infundibulum. Ethmoidal infundibulum is the funnel-shaped passage through which the secretions from various anterior ethmoidal cells, the maxillary sinus, and in some cases the frontal sinus are transported or channeled into the middle meatus. Uncinate process forms the floor and the medial wall of the infundibulum. This structure is nearly sagittally oriented. It's actually sickle shaped or boomerang shaped. It parallels the ethmoid bulla. It is approximately 3 to 4 millimeters wide and 1.5 to 2 centimeters in length. That's the uncinate process. Coming to sphenoid sinus. Sphenoid sinus resides in the body of the sphenoid bone. They are paired, asymmetrical, and not present at birth. Lies below the sella turcica, and sphenoid effusion shows skull base fractures. If at all there is effusion in the sphenoid, that means there is skull base fracture. It's related to optic tract chiasma and internal carotid artery in the lateral wall. Your sphenoid sinus is supplied by posterior ethmoidal artery, and lymphatic drainage is to retropharyngeal nodes, and it's supplied by posterior ethmoidal nerve. Microscopic anatomy of your sinuses. It's lined by mucous membrane, which is ciliated columnar epithelium. It has goblet cells which secretes mucus. And the cilia are more marked near ostia. So even a mild inflammation, there can be block in the osteometal complex because two mucosal lining come in contact with each other, blocking the drainage pathway. And hence there is stagnation of secretions in the respective sinuses. That stagnation will lead into secondary bacterial infection, and that is how the pathophysiology of sinusitis is. So osteometal complex area in the lateral wall of the nose is something very important for the onset of sinusitis. With this, I will be ending the topic for today's discussion. Thank you.